This entry into the history of financial futures is sponsored by Eurex.
I've been growing up in Cologne, kind of medium-sized city here in Germany. I went to school there, did my school degree, and then started studying physics and mathematics in Bonn, which is former capital. At the time, it was still the capital. And the reason for going there was that when you studied physics, you did the real math classes. So you could do the proper mathematics training there. And I always liked that. So I did my degree in physics, my PhD in mathematics there. And after finishing the studies, I went to a postdoc position, a research position in Cambridge, UK. So I was there at the Department for Applied Mathematics and Theoretical Physics for 2.5 years. Very interesting time, very sharp minds around, for sure. Some of which are even famous, like Stephen Hawking at the time. So had a good time there doing some research. And in 1997, it looked like there were very few people deciding in Germany to study physics and math. And that made me think about maybe there is a different way to live than be in academia, and look for a job. And essentially, the question I asked myself is, where's enough going on that it might be an interesting background? And there it seemed to me that the banking and exchange business might be something. So I applied to a few places, and Deutsche Boerse at the time was hiring like hell. Quite frankly, we hired a lot of people in those days, 98 to 2002. We grew a lot. And so I started in March 98 there, which was a great time to learn a lot of things. My background in derivatives was really solid. I bought one book at Cambridge University Press, Options and Futures, and I had a 3 hours read before the interview. So at least I knew a difference between an American and a European style option, which was good in the interview. And I also found out that the people who interviewed me were also physicists or mathematicians. So that seemed to be a natural fit. And then I started with Deutsche Boerse there. And one of the first things where I was involved in was also, as a total junior, not knowing anything, the Battle of the Bund then in 98, where our Eurex or DTB board members, Jörg Franke as the CEO of Eurex and Andreas Preuss, our head of sales, of course, made a big initiative to see whether we could drag over the trading in the Bund future to our electronic platform from live. And one of the things we did was, they did, and I was only involved as a very small wheel there, was to offer people, particularly locals in London, if you join us at DTB and trade the Bund with us, you get the technology infrastructure for half a year or a year for free. We bring you the terminal, we install it, you don't pay any fees for the technology, you pay the fees for the contracts, but that's about it. And that was the kind of first project I was involved in, as I said, no clue of nothing. And the first 2 terminals, 2 green screens, open VMS user devices, user device they were called. We tested in Frankfurt, and of course everything worked. And then we shipped them over in the back of a Passat car to London, and of course it didn't work. As soon as they were there, nothing worked. And so in the end, we figured out after a very long night that all the vibrations in the car made one of the network cards get loose and not fitting to the slots properly anymore. And so you learn your lesson that maybe transport in a private car is not the best you can do with equipment there. We also didn't have UK kits, power kits. So they all came with German power cords, which was not so great. So I went to a DIY market and bought a few travel adapters, which we delivered as well then. So this was the experimental start of things. But it was an interesting time, learning a lot. And as you know, and you've covered already, it worked out. So in 98, the volume swung over from live to DTB, well, later in the year, and then Eurex from September on. Being fully electronic also meant, of course, that you are not free of errors that human beings inject in your platforms. So we had a problem we had a few times, that there were missing expiry dates for some of the futures. Whenever there were new expiries coming up, you had to have the precise dates for the expiry. It's not good enough to know that it's June 2001 or whatever, but it had to be the right date there, really. And so if our functional operations colleague forgot to enter these expiry dates, then they had to somehow be patched into the system. And in 2001, we had a pretty, interesting experience there. I mean, Deutsche Boerse acquired software and services company in the financial industry, Entry, at that time. And you could see the guy who was in charge at Entry organized a big party for everyone in IT. We grow a bigger family, more things to do. And he was a derivatives guy. So the party was on a triple witch. You never want to have parties on a triple witch, not a good idea. Even in the evening, it's most complicated processing on the clearing side. Okay, so we had a great party. The mood was very relaxed. Some larger quantities of beer found their way down several throats. And somewhere in the evening, there was a problem. And again, some expiry dates missing. And I would say the core of the crew that was in charge there was also at the party. And that resulted in the fact that we were not quite as good as fixing these problems as normally. And after we'd done a few things with the too many beers in our bellies, it turned out that actually all the margins were computed with settling the Bund future and the other futures at a price of zero. So would have had collected quite a lot of margin here on Monday morning. So we had a very interesting night, tried to fix this, didn't get it done, then decided, oh, come on, better get home, get some sleep, get better, and rejoin Saturday lunchtime to get that fixed Saturday afternoon, which then also worked out. And okay, we run the end of day processing again from the pre-batch backups, and that resulted in two facts. We don't do parties on triple witches anymore. And also people on call, which are on call duty or operators, better don't have any alcohol when being on duty. So two rules we learned the hard way there in 2001. In 98, when the Bund came over from live to Eurex, it was electronic trading, but still we had tons of day traders trading, particularly the Bund future. So these were humans sitting in front of a screen or green screens and actually trading typically only a smaller number of lots up and down, don't holding very large positions. And so there were a lot of companies offering infrastructure services to the locals, to the local traders there in London. And there were big arcades, big rooms with a lot of traders sitting there. Now, between 2005 and 2007, essentially all of that business became electronic also on the client side. So those day traders were gradually replaced by machines. So during that time, it was still man against machine, I would say. After that time, it was like 90% machines only. So that had also a profound impact on the technology that is used, because when human beings trade, I mean, when you think of a blink of an eye, how long that takes, you might realize that something takes half a second. You will not realize that this takes half a millisecond. You just can't see this. So it was a big change for us, because essentially it meant the machines were sending order transactions at us much, much faster than all the day traders could have ever done. And so essentially the capacity that the trading engine needed to provide, the matching engines, grew enormously. And so we had to set up a program to cater for this, which we call the technology roadmap. We're still running that many years later, where we try to improve the technical characteristics of our system, provide good response times, and share also best practices with people using our system. So how should you do certain things and what should you try to avoid to be efficient also for yourself? So that was a big program started way back then, still based on the old Eurex system, called Eurex Classic, based on OpenVMS. But we put in a lot of effort to streamline that and to provide the capacity that everyone wanted to have. Was a big change in terms of, say, what is the structure of our users? You typically were, before trading, talking to the traders. Now, when we talk to our members, we quite often talk to people who would write the code that would execute the trading algorithms on the member side. So also that interaction changed from talk directly to a trader to talk more to a developer kind of person. One of the things we have been fighting historically a long time or trying to avoid was to have the necessity of big pipes to our members to distribute our market data. So we had 64 kilobit lines. I mean, unimaginable these days. Yeah, if you look at your internet connection, I mean, who thinks about kilobits? You think about, probably forget about megabits these days and think about gigabit lines. Yeah. So we had 64 kilobit lines, and we were trying to squeeze all the market data into this. And so compressing data was super important. And yeah, I mean, our system really got under a lot of stress, particularly during the times where, say, the volumes grew a lot. We also realized that we have to be very good at understanding where our bottlenecks are, and we have to really have a very good monitoring infrastructure. And that was something that in the early days, so in the 1990s, we definitely didn't have. And that was one of the things that we put a lot of effort in make all the transactions that run through the matching engine and through the clearing system super transparent in terms of we can look at a single order and can see how long did it take to process that order or that send out that trade print to you, client, so that if we get some complaints or some questions, we could really stand up to this and deliver a good service, for one. And for two, do our own statistics and see, okay, in this component of the system, probably we could do better. It just takes too long. We have to improve here. And that was something that was definitely very important for us, and is still at the base also of our new system, that we think if you don't measure, it's very hard to improve. So you have to have a lot of measuring points to see what you can do better. Big adventure for us also in the early 2000s, when we had a chance to provide the electronic trade platform to the Board of Trade at the time, trading the T-bond mainly there. So for us, we had to adapt, of course, to the functionality needed. So fractions there, it was biggest part of change we had to do. Was still the old system, the OpenVMS-based trading system. Was a super experience also to work together with the guys from the Board of Trade to pull this off. Of course, a lot of, well, you know probably a lot better than I do, but a lot of discussion internally whether electronic trading is the way to go in the first place. Yeah. And then at some point, the board decided to kind of break with us and go join CME. And then we tried to run our own futures business in the US, Eurex US, which was not successful, quite frankly. So in heads-on competition to the Board of Trade or CME then at the time. Yeah, I think we also learned a lot there. And I think there are a lot of cases where, I would say established players try to steal products from someone else. And mainly on the futures side, it hasn't worked out, I would say, statistically. So it didn't work out for Eurex US on our side, for sure. T-bond still with the Merck, of course. And so we also learned a lot. I mean, there have been several attempts to steal products from Live, from Eurex, from CME, and there are not many examples where this really worked out. So it was also definitely a very interesting product. For some years successful because we were just quote unquote the technology provider to the border trade. That worked out well, but then they decided that maybe finding a solution within Chicago is a better option for them, and then we were kind of out. The DTB and then Eurex trading system was designed the end of the 80s and went live for DTB in 1990. So it's quite amazing how long that served us so well. And actually, before we launched or built the new trading platform, so T7 for Eurex, we actually built a predecessor of that system again for a US exchange, because we bought the ISE, the International Stock Exchange, at the time, an options exchange in New York, and they were in need of a new options trading platform. And so we decided that this was a good idea to do that in-house and build a new system there for them, which was called Optimize. And it's actually the predecessor of T7. So we had the chance to build a new trading platform kind of from scratch, which was launched in 2010 in New York for ISE. And has been in service there till ISE was bought by Nasdaq from us. So they're not under our roof anymore. And that was the chance for us to really, after more than 20 years, build a new platform and take all the learnings we had from the past and try to design a system that is better and can do a lot more. Now, what were the dimensions in which we wanted to grow? I mean, surely it was being able to have a lot more throughput and, of course, also lower latency to provide the capacity that the ever-increasing volumes on the derivative side really made necessary. But it also made it possible for us to, use some of the principles we had already developed before in the old platform and use them fully. I mean, one of the examples, for example, was that we already in the old system had kind of two types of orders. So kind of more lightweight orders for the market makers or HFTs that would disappear if a matching engine would crash, because we would only keep them in memory, volatile memory. And you had an order type where orders were put in a safe store every time. Maybe more client flow. If you have buy-side clients, you might not care too much about the ultra-low latency, but you want to have the orders all safe. And this was hard to kind of build this in the OpenVMS-based system in the way we also wanted to do it. And that was one of the things we could do a lot better with the new system. And quite frankly, OpenVMS was not the operating system where a lot of products and services were developed, and looked to us that Linux is and x86 processors is the way forward. So we also decided that it would be time to move on from our OpenVMS base away to Linux and from our mainly C-based trading software to a C++ one. And so we also changed in the internal design a lot of things. I would say one of the basic ideas in T7 was also that one size fits all for interfaces is not a good idea in our financial market. We have different players which are looking to achieve different things. So when we started with T7, the idea was not one size fits all, but two sizes fit most. So we had two sets of interfaces, kind of one set more for those people who don't care about latency and throughput, but want to have it as convenient as possible and as cheap to integrate in the infrastructure. If you're more an order routing place or you want to trade via a GUI, that's very different from the second category. You're a HFT or you're a market maker. You don't mind if it's a proprietary interface, as long as it's fast and super efficient. So we provided all interfaces to our system, whether this was order management, market data, reference data, in 2 flavors. And our clients could choose. And we kind of stick to that till the day. So sometimes now we have even 3 flavors of some interfaces, but typically we have 2. And 2 sizes fits most is kind of still what we believe in. So that was also one of the things that we put into the platform. End of 2012, we went live with a few, quite frankly, guinea pig products, just to see that it kind of worked. And then we cut over all the products from the old trading system in 2013. Mid of 2013, after the June Bund expiry, we cut over the last products there. And we also had a hard time when you build new systems. You also make mistakes and you also have your troubles. One of the stories there is in April, we were cutting over all German equity options, and this was a lot of load. I mean, in options, you get a lot of quoting, a lot of things going on. And our graphical user interface infrastructure wasn't quite up to it at the time. So we had 2 very bumpy weeks after we cut over our German equity options, and we had to change much, much faster than we thought. The middleware used underneath the GUI infrastructure there, because we really had some problems and had some service unavailabilities every now and then. So that was also a pretty intense time. But then after all the products had cut over in June, it went quite well with T7. And essentially, it also allowed us to at least move a large part of the business processes that ran on the old Eurex system, which was not only a trading platform. So it was not just matching engines and gateways, market data distributors. The old system was a trading, clearing, risk management, and data warehouse system all in one. And that's maybe not the way things are structured these days. And also there in the 2010s or so, we felt it's time to realize that the requirements are different. Trading wants high capacity, low latency, high throughput. Clearing mainly wants super reliable transaction processing. And risk management also doesn't need to be intrinsically super real time. When you have manual margin calls during the day, you might not have to compute things in microseconds. So that was also the first step to really diversify the portfolio of systems and technologies that we use for trading, clearing, risk management, and data warehousing there. And that then also resulted in the build of the next 7 series system, C7, our new clearing system. That then was also Linux-based, but based on Java. And that was put in production in 2016. So kind of 4 years later than the new trading platform T7.